You know what woke means? It means you're a loser. Everything woke. Everything woke. It's true. Everything woke turns to shit, okay? It's true. It's true.
Everything woke turns to shit.
Okay? It's true.
Oh, and you think this is the most shocking he said?
All right, so let me give you that answer right now.
You are all wrong. For the next 10 minutes, you'll witness the most shocking moments where Trump completely takes down woke culture with some pretty savage responses.
So crazy.
Make sure you are wide awake and ready to kicking things off with the first of many bombs Trump dropped on the woke community. Trump starts off by saying, we should not allow men to play in women's sports.
And by the way, we should not allow men to play in women's sports.
Which gets a big round of applause, as it should. I know this seems like something even a kid would understand, but it's something we have to explain to adults now. Woke folks are pushing for people who were born male to compete in women's sports, where they obviously have a physical and biological advantage.
You want these political geniuses, I have all these consultants, all these great... Sir, don't say that, it's very controversial. That's not written down anywhere, I just said...
He then shares a story about a top female swimmer who trains hard to break a world record by a fraction of a second.
I tell the story of the great swimmer, great female swimmer, wonderful woman, beautiful woman. She's been swimming for many years. She wants to break the world record. And she's at the pool and she wants to break it by 1/8 of a second. That's like fast.
As she prepares, she notices a competitor with a man's body.
Well, she's been competing with for years because they rise to the top, and she looks over here and she sees people, but then she looks and they call this, they say this, she sees somebody with a man's body. That's what they do, they call it. I said, you think it's okay to say that? That's actually the expression they're using. They'll change that soon, so I have to do it quickly, I have to say.
And points out the absurdity of this person being named Female Athlete of the Year.
And you know the guy, he was named Female Athlete of the Year. Did you know that? It's true.
Do you think this is fair, or should it be stopped? Trump mocks the absurdity of our times, joking about a female swimmer getting windburn from racing a guy who shattered the record by 38 seconds.
He was just named female. We're not dealing with things that are so easy here, Newt. This is a difficult, crazy world. You'd almost say, is the world going crazy? Because 99% of the things I'm saying are common sense. But she looks over and sees her friends down there, and then she looks and this guy is massive. He's got a wingspan, he's got arms that are 30 feet long. And I always say, and she was seriously injured during the meet because he swam so fast that he gave her major windburn as he went by her. And she didn't break the record, but he broke the record that day. You know what the number was? 38 seconds.
He argues that men competing in women's sports is unfair, pointing to athletes like Leah Thomas as proof. Trump slams this as blatant disrespect to women, calling out the absurdity of it all. Is it really politically incorrect to say this is unfair, or are we just ignoring reality? Trump jokes about how he can't lift 218 pounds and doubts if his supporters could. But then he paints a shocking picture. A female athlete struggling to break a world record fails until a transgender athlete, sarcastically dubbed Alice, steps in and crushes it effortlessly.
Or the weightlifter, I think it was like 218 pounds. And that's a lot. I can't lift it. I don't know who can. Any of our ex-Trump people, they're all Trump people. Kevin's saying he can lift it. I don't know about that, Kevin, but that's a lot. 218 pounds, and she got over that weight, and she was going to break it. They put a half an ounce here, half little tiny ring on top of these big barbells, dumbbells. Then they go, and she went like this, and she got to break it. Stood for 11 years. And her mother and father are screaming, you got it! You got it, darling. I'm so proud of my girl. Well, she couldn't do it. And then This guy comes along. He's named Alice. And he looks at the weight. World record, world record.
It's just so disrespectful and unfair. Seriously, it's a mess. We really need to change things and make it okay to discuss this. The woman who lost that medal is scared to speak up because she's shunned and cancelled when she does. But Trump is not. In another clip, he talks about even more. Is this just the beginning of a broader battle against woke policies?
Right now,
And how much do you think, the cancel culture woke debate is now beginning to really damage the Democrats? And I'll give you the example that's been raging recently, this whole issue of transgender athletes in sport, for example, in women's sport.
Yeah.
Leah Thomas, the swimmer. I think it's grotesquely unfair.
It is.
You know, you can support trans rights to equality and fairness, but also understand that what's going on in sport is inherently unfair and unjust and unequal. Is that your...
Donald Trump calls it ridiculous that trans athletes born male are allowed to compete in women's sports, demanding an outright ban.
People see it and they won't put up with it. They had a weightlifter where the record was for 11 or 12 years, and they'd put a half an ounce on each side, and the woman would lift. A guy comes along and breaks the record by numbers that you wouldn't...
Boris Johnson came out recently and said he would ban biological males, people born with biological male bodies who transition, he would ban them from then competing in women's sport.
He backs UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson on this and insists he was voicing these concerns long before they became a hot topic.
Good.
Do you agree with that?
I do. I agreed with it long before anybody else. I think it's ridiculous, and it's sad, and it's bad for the Democrats because they're not going to do that.
One of the big questions being put to lots of politicians right now is, what is a woman?
I'm not going to respond to the question, but a woman is somebody that swims at a certain time and doesn't get beaten by 38 seconds by somebody that wasn't even a good swimmer as a male.
But Trump isn't stopping with sports. He aims to tackle wokeness in education and the military too.
We'll take a couple of quick questions, and then I'll shake a few hands. Question, ma'am, go ahead. Hello.
Hi, welcome, President Trump.
Thank you.
Okay, so you kind of already answered my question a little bit, but my question was, when you become president again, what would the first thing you'll do to fix our current school system and even our current military that's only focusing on teaching woke gender ideology over learning the basics of life and history and protecting us?
Is he able to do this as a president? Donald promises to tackle woke policies in the military and reform the failing education system.
So a good question. Some of it partially answered, but not all. With the military, we're ending woke immediately. You know, I ended woke, totally. And then in their first week, they reestablished it. It's crazy. They pay instructors hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Literally, they want our military to be woke.
He criticizes the current administration for reinstating these policies and highlights that, despite spending more per student than any other country, US education ranks poorly.
And it's just not going to happen. You read in Hawaii where they had the horrible fire where they have people going there, and before they bring them on board, they have to study woke for a week. Can you believe this? In other words, everyone's wanting to get back to their home, finding the bodies. It was such a tragedy. You don't read about it too much anymore, but hell is going on over there. And they want to give them classes in essentially wokeness. Can you believe? So, you know, you've seen it. Well, we'll end that very quickly. We will, with the school, I think the schools are very important. We're going to bring our education department back. Now, if you look at our education, we pay more per pupil than any country in the world by 3 times.
In 2022, the US Department of Education spent $222.48 billion, down from $260.45 billion the previous year.
And yet we're at the bottom of the list. We have a bad, very bad. If a place like Iowa, as an example, if you could run your own and we give you just a percentage of the money, because you wouldn't need nearly the money that they waste in Washington, Number one, you love your students, you want your students, you know your students. The parents will be involved. That's the other thing. We're going to let the parents, because some of these school boards have become tyrannical. They've been horrible. But we're going to bring that back, and that's going to answer your question, because I think that we can have one of the best school systems in the world. Right now we have one of the worst. They basically rate 40 countries, and we're always at close to the bottom of the list, sometimes the bottom of the list, and spending more money than anybody else. So we're going to take care of all of your needs very quickly, and I think it's going to happen very quickly. And one of the things we're doing, closing the border day one and starting drilling for oil. Okay? We're going to drill, baby, drill.
But with a projected drop to around $185 billion for 2023, Trump argues that taxpayer money is being wasted on wokeness instead of improving education. Is this spending helping or hindering our schools and military?
Gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth.
Trump is saying that he will end what he describes as left-wing policies related to gender issues, which he calls child abuse. He plans to revoke Joe Biden's policies on gender-affirming care, which he criticizes for involving puberty blockers, altering physical appearance, and even surgeries on minors. For context, the use of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones among US children more than doubled from 2,394 in 2017 to 5,163 in 2020. Is this drastic measure a necessary reform or an overreach? Trump vows to sign an executive order banning all federal programs that promote sex and gender transition at any age.
A new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age.
He plans to push Congress to permanently cut federal funding for these procedures and to enforce a nationwide ban.
I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children.
Let's see how he drops more bombs on this. Trump said that the Department of Justice will look into whether big pharma and large hospital networks have been hiding the severe long-term side effects of sex transitions just to profit from vulnerable patients.
The Department of Justice will investigate big pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable.
They'll also investigate if these companies have been illegally marketing hormones and puberty blockers for unapproved uses.
We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use.
Additionally, the Department of Education will make it clear that teachers or school officials suggesting to students that they might be in the wrong body could face serious consequences.
My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique.
Which they should, as this is a serious matter, right? This is certainly not the last thing he has to say about this. He even goes a few steps further without a filter.
I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent.
Did you heard that? Trump promises to push Congress for a bill that officially recognizes only two genders, male and female, assigned at birth. This bill would ensure Title IX bars men from competing in women's sports and protect parents from being forced to let their children change gender identities without consent.
The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago.
Under his leadership, he vows to put an end to this issue, and he has been very vocal about it.
Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
In the Alabama rally 2021, former President Trump made fun of woke culture, and I must say the crowd of Alabama was enjoying it big time. Let's check it out.
You know, I met a general. His name was General Kane. I don't even know. Maybe he's not even on my side. Who the hell knows with these generals? You know, when I get through with this guy, Milley, I mean, how about Milley? Remember?
Can you speak out without getting punished for it these days?
To the church, proudly walked to the church, that the protesters, they tried to burn it down, but I walked to the church, protesters out there, and Milley was walking with me. And the next day, the radical left media starts calling, you shouldn't have walked, you shouldn't have walked. Instead of saying, I'm proud to walk with my president, not because it's me, because of the office. Instead of saying that, he wanted to apologize for walking with the President of the United States.
When you destroy woke culture without any filter, you can expect things that will try to take you down. Is Donald Trump prepared for this, you think? At a New Hampshire event, he faced tough questions about his stance on women's issues. When challenged by an extreme feminist on woke topics, Trump gave blunt and sharp responses. I'll let the full clip play, but check this out.
Maybe you can prove me wrong, but I don't think that you're a friend to women.
I knew I shouldn't have picked her. I knew I shouldn't have picked her. All right, so let me give you that answer right now.
She's not really interested in his answer. She's just looking for a fight. As soon as Trump starts responding, she turns away and starts chatting with someone else. Despite that, Trump handles the situation really well.
All right, so let me give you that answer right now. I respect women incredibly.
Trump's response was savage when it came to flipping accusations. Instead of just defending himself, he went on the offensive, pointing out his history of empowering women in male-dominated fields. For example, Barbara A. Rez, who was hired by Trump as Vice President of Construction at just 31, played a key role in building Trump Tower from 1980 to 1984.
I have had women working for me in positions that they've never worked in terms of construction, in terms of so many different jobs. I had a woman who was in charge of the building of Trump Tower many years ago, before anybody would have even thought of it.
Despite this, the feminist wasn't swayed and brought up the wage gap debate. Yeah, with her stance and the look on her face, she thinks she made a point, but she really didn't. Trump is about to wipe the floor with her in one line.
You're going to make the same if you do as good a job. You're going to make the same if you do as good a job, and I happen to be pro-life. Okay, I'm pro-life.
In just a few words, he dismissed the whole idea of a systemic wage gap, boiling it down to a simple rebuttal. What are your thoughts on his stance? Do you think his approach will make a significant impact?